right. Thank you all for your patience and for viewing with us and for vibing with us. That was incredible. Thank you to our panelists. Again, let's give them crazy congratulations shakes, emojis, love in the chat. Just shower them with love. It's a Thursday night. It's been a long week, and they're out here killing it with amazing work for all of us for free. Come on. Come on. Thank you all so much to the panelists. Thank you, thank you, thank you. At the very end, you noticed there were some questions there we came up with for the panelists, but we want to kind of ask the audience, do you have any reactions, any love to share, any questions? Now's your chance. Please let us know.
I do have a comment. So, looking at some of the questions in the prompts about how Black history is American history, and then also um, seeing the brother's presentation, I'm sorry, I forgot your name, that talked about the conflict mitigation that helped resolve issues between the Bloods and the Crips. It makes me think, like, if we expand that same concept between Democrats and Republicans, because we have very like uh just like incessant party rivalry and the way that that divides the country. And when you look at it and the example that we have set in our own history, in our own people, that could be expanded to other people to be used in other areas. So I appreciate all the presentations. Like, y'all just got my wheels turning and my creative juices flowing. So thank y'all so much.
Thank you so much for that comment, Kamari. Does anyone in the panel want to respond or vibe off that? Now's your chance. You have a captive audience. Go for it.
Hey, I'm going to take the chance and just unmute myself real quick. This is Kenneth Webb. Thank you, first off, everybody, for being here. Thank you for this opportunity to share. Oh, my goodness. My heart is beating really hard right now, but not out of fear or like timidity, just like encouragement. Like my heart is leaping inside my chest for joy right now, hearing all of these stories of creativity and man, wow. And Kamari, your question of like how we can now basically apply these concepts. It's like personally, I've been thinking of that too. It's like how, like, what do we do? I mean, it's kind of right now is what we're doing. It's first off, we got to have the conversation to realign our interconnected consciousness. Because like we're all awake right here, we're all breathing. But the next step is we got to realize our similarities, how similar we are, meet our basic general needs, and then move from that point. So at this point, craziest part is make sure each other are fed. Make sure each other are sheltered and clothed. These are the primary concepts that, beyond all else, I feel like a lot of what we start talking about and focusing on is like political party this and all these other things. Those are very active issues, but actually that's why they call it political theater, because it's a show. It's the distraction from what's really going on. They want us to focus on who's the president now, who's the president then, ooh, who can we elect maybe to fix these issues? When in actuality, if we conglomerate our resources and then again initiate, yeah, just like systematic racism exists, systems of regeneration, nothing's gonna stop us. But starts here with these conversations and asking these questions. And man, thank you so much, Designing in Color, for this opportunity. Because we are the change.
Ooh, absolute fire. Absolute fire. I would snap, but I've been doing that throughout the video and my fingers are exhausted. So I'm just gonna, you did well. That was great. Is there anyone else in the panel who wants to just express themselves? Now's your space. You know, like I've talked enough. Please have the floor. Have the floor.
What's up, everybody? My name is Anthony. I'm from Buffalo, New York. Fantastic presentation. All the panelists had wonderful presentations. It's good to see a good magnitude, like the magnitude of Black bodies that are involved in architecture, not only in history, but in the present. It just makes such a great combination for the future. Being from Buffalo, like there's a lot of fantastic architecture. We're such an old city. that still retains a lot of that old architecture. City Hall, Frank Lloyd Wright, some of you might know if you're interested in architecture, is a famous architect who gets a lot of credit for designing things in Buffalo. But we're still extra segregated here. You know what I mean? Like the east side where I'm from doesn't have the same like avenues and strips that all the rest of Buffalo does. So there's a lot of like conflict in that. And people are still being like pushed to the east side, further out to the east side into a different like town. That's how crazy it's getting. Now they're starting to raise rent on us. We're known for our cheap rent. So like, you know, that kind of helps. But at the same time, there's still like a void of just beautiful things on the east side. Sometimes we have murals on the sides of buildings, but there's still like that pride is sometimes missing. I'm also a photographer, and as part of a like a citywide initiative, I was hired to take photos of things that stir pride in Buffalo. And I had a hard time doing it because there were so many empty lots and closed businesses. And we're not a huge city. We're a little big city. And the east side is, like I said, it doesn't have all the strips and all the beautification that the rest of the city does. And people are quick to say that Buffalo's going through a renaissance. That's because the north side is building up and the west side is building up and downtown is building up. And the Bills almost went to the Super Bowl. Like those are the things that people are concerned about. But the east side is not really feeling that all the way. And especially for the Black population, we've kind of been pushed out by, not pushed out, but actually, no, I won't even go there. But yeah, so that's one of the things I wanted to vocalize. But seeing this is definitely inspirational. And I would definitely like to pass this Designing on Color platform to other people that I know so they can get down with this movement. So appreciate y'all.
Let's get right into it. Question number 1, prepare yourself. While we find ourselves in Black History Month, we all know that Black history is American history and should be celebrated all year long. Can you describe the ways that ritual, tradition, and history play a role in your creative process every day? Can you also describe the specific importance of Black History Month at a time when Americans nationwide are watching and celebrating Black voices? Who wants to take that?
Hi, everybody. Thank you again for being here. This has been great and a great opportunity to hear everybody and to hear all these different insights. And you know, one of the things I like to stress is learning. I love, you know, gaining knowledge from others and still kind of in the process of learning to educate others as well. So thank you for this opportunity because this was a great opportunity to do that. So yeah, I guess this question really, I mean, all I could think about when formulating an answer, I know I sent you guys my answers on accident in the email. But yeah, design equity, like with social media, which I've kind of recently got more into as far as my architectural design page, I push for design equity. You know, I know the gentleman, you know, very recently mentioned Frank Lloyd Wright. You know, that was one of the besides Corbu, one of the main white male architects that, you know, was kind of scarfed down my throat during my undergraduate career. And, you know, don't get me wrong, I love Frank Lloyd Wright. You know, I visited Falling Water and I want to still visit Unity Temple in Chicago and all that. But, you know, what about the Allison Grace Williamses? What about the Cheryl McGaffeys? What about the Roberta Washingtons? You know, these powerful women. I was kind of feeling some type of way during the beginning of this month. So I made a little post on Instagram that I put, you know, a little silhouette of myself next to the Philip Freelons, the David Ajays, Roberta Allisons, the Max Bonds, and goodness, yeah, another, you know, influential Black architects. And still to this day, it's not being taught. You know, I recently got my MArch degree last spring, and I'm just, it's frustrating because we're still not, these great minds are still not are still not being really exposed like they should in academia. So, with this, for example, with this thesis and a lot of the other dialogue from these other wonderful presenters, like it's great to see that um, despite the drawbacks in academia and overall, society, there are people like us who are aware of the magnitude of greatness that we bring. I mean, to put it short. So, yeah, thank everybody.
I think I actually want to piggyback off of that, Taylor. That's a good segue because in my answer to this, I put that I feel like America and Americans are always watching us, but not celebrating us, right? So our culture is always being watched, and it's never really anything positive, that comes from America. And so I'm not really convinced that even though all these things that have happened in 2020 and have been happening for decades, has opened the eyes enough for, right, like Taylor said, for academia to open the doors for us to learn about these people, right? So in my experience, it's the same, when I got my MArch, and that was 10 years ago, so it's the same thing that's happening now. And part of my answer to some of these other questions, is about what to tell, the generation coming after me is to like be your own voice, like to be able to see everyone tonight do these things in design that is so vastly different, but dealing with the issues that we have to deal with every day in architecture is amazing. When I did my thesis in hip hop inspired architecture, there was one person that I could talk about, and I felt like so by myself. It was like, what are you doing? This is crazy. But for me, it was about, this cultural identity of Black people that started in New York. And this is something that again, America is watching all over the country. People are watching all over the country and have taken this idea and ran with it in their own way. But we use these things to survive and to live in our communities and design for ourselves. So that's how we continue to celebrate us. And I think things like this event helps us to, have these conversations and continue to figure out how to bring these things, into our degrees and into the schools where we go to. But we still have a ways to go. But this is a great start. So I want to thank you guys for doing this, because it does, shed light on what we're trying to accomplish. And sometimes it can feel daunting because you feel like you're trying to tackle this, on your own. So this is great to have these, conversations. And in my own work, my design looks different, right, from everyone else. I'm a developer. I'm trained in architecture now, working in development. And so now I'm on the other side of design, right? Like trying to figure out how to bring communities together, how to keep communities together through gentrification, and having these conversations about displacement and how we can keep people in their spaces, so now I'm like on this other side of what I did in my thesis, and it's crazy. It's scary because gentrification is real and it's happening, and sometimes it's hard to combat that, alone. So having these diverse ideas on how to do that from different angles is great. This is a great conversation. So thank you.
Yes, Dawn. Yeah, your dialogue about your experience as a developer. I remember speaking with a fellow Black woman by the name of Zena. Her real name is Zena Griffin, but she well, I'm not going to put her backstory out there. It's very inspiring. But I remember we used to work together for a medium-sized firm in Atlanta. And I remember I was having a conversation with her, and she told me she was in a meeting with one of the principals of our firm, and she came to realize how how much influence developers have on, you know, the urban overall environment. So, and she was like, man, I'm thinking about, you know, becoming a developer. And I never, that made me think like, you know, architecture, eh, being a develop, how much being a developer has such a great impact on the built environment.
Yeah.
So in short, we need more people like you to be like you. So yeah, I
We're
appreciate
trying to
that.
get there. So I was in a
Yeah.
fellowship. I just finished a fellowship. It's called a Rose Fellow. Rose Fellow. I don't know if you all have heard of this, but this is Enterprise Communities does fellowships all across the United States, and that's how I got into development. So I wanted something different. I don't really like design work, and so I was trying to figure out, you know, my path again, like in architecture, what does that look like for me? And thinking outside the box in this fellowship. I actually just finished my 3-year fellowship in December, and now moving into more of a project management role with my organization. And, you know, so it's like, how do I tell Black people you can be a developer? You know, like, how can I tell Black architects this is possible? Because I realized the same thing. I was like, we are making the decisions. You know, the county and the state are making decisions also with funding, but we are the ones that say what goes where, and we hire the architects. So my role is to be that liaison, because I have a background in architecture, to be that liaison between the architects we hire, and then I can control that narrative, right, of what goes in neighborhoods and what we actually want, and then also create these community engagement events and design charrettes that I call design ciphers, and talk to our tenants in the community and say, hey, listen, this is what the community is asking for, and you can't design something that they don't want. You know, so yeah, it's been 3 years of mind-blowing experiences. If anyone wants to know further information outside of this, but the developer side is way different, and it's important. But again, we need all of these conversations to figure out how to do it differently every day. I talk to artists and photographers and architects, and, you know, just to try to figure out different ways to tackle these issues.
Yes. So the idea that you're both talking about, oh my goodness. See, we've had such a unanimous experience through these schools that we have to acknowledge the fact that this is systematic, and which we've acknowledged that, but again, the general society has not acknowledged the fact that because we look like this, people generally treat us like such, and because of the historical events and the cascading effect of this treatment over time and neglect, we are experiencing the world in this way. And now that we're coming to these realizations that, wait, I can be an architect, wait, I can be a developer, we're coming to places within ourselves which are, man, extremely motivated. But also, I can see it in all of our eyes. You have a deep sorrow within you, but it's a beautiful sorrow, because it's a sorrow of a world you know can exist that just does not yet exist. And so it really comes down to the idea that we have to now own these institutions. It's okay to think that way. The white supremacist construct that is capitalism has nothing to do with our future, and that's okay. That's an idea that most people are so far removed from, and even people that look like us, all skin folk and kinfolk, don't necessarily understand. But it's not just a financial thing, it's a human thing. So we got to meet the basic needs and own our own institutions. And really, it starts with real estate. We have to own our own land and then work with the municipality, or really demand and pay the municipality to do what we need to do what we want to do, and how we as members of the community know how to do to best and most positively influence and affect our own communities. So initial needs, and then make those initial needs an architectural and systematic thing. Essentially, if we could all just figure out I know we all in different places, but folks that's in AZ, get together, folks that's in all these different states, invest in an apartment complex and go live there. And then grow your own food and figure out a way to maintain your own water and collect your own water and produce your own electricity. Create these architectural systems that will, for generations, as systematic oppression has affected us, now then influence us and allow us to just be our best selves. Wake up every day and not think, but be. I am. That's what you said, Don. I am, so we are, and I am is you, so you are me, and we just wake up. We should be able to wake up every day and not worry about it. And there's an architectural system that yet we're in this room right now, it's coming together, but it has yet to exist. It's nothing we've seen before, and that's okay.
That's amazing. You're speaking about that Afrofuturist design mentality that I love to see, where right now we're at a point where it's like a choice you don't know is a choice you don't have. And people like Don and others are breaking down that mental barrier that tells you you can't do something, not because you're explicitly told you can't do it, but simply because you didn't know you could. But seeing people do that and achieve is that motivator.
I was just gonna say, I think that essentially is the essence of Black History Month. You know, the thing, like, you know, Don, use you as an example. You know, people like you are what make Black History Month. These are the things that I think the powerful thing to me about Black History Month is, I think we've all said that it's a motive. It motivates us. It motivates a lot of Black people to see, like, okay, we can do this. We learn information about our history, we learn information about our ancestors, and then even not even ancestors, we learn information about our peers, people around us who do phenomenal things that over the years we've never been told we could do, or we've been told literally that we couldn't do, or we weren't able to do, or it was illegal to do. And so I think that's the beauty of this month, is like being able to share what we do, share what we've done, so we can show not only future generations, but even generations now that, like, don't think that just because we have these obstacles, there's no way to get to the destination that you're trying to get to. And I think that's the very powerful thing with us, is I think with Black people, no matter what the circumstances are, we're always going to find a way. We're always going to, you know, find a way to get to the destination. Even if it's hard, even if the road is rocky, we're still going to figure it out, because at the end of the day, it's a bigger purpose.
And I think I would argue that, you know, not just me, but you guys too, right? Like, I sit here and I'm like thinking of ways I can talk to you all about what you're doing and how to incorporate, you know, different things that you all are doing into my work. You know, so I think it's about sharing ideas and celebrating, continuing to celebrate each other and encourage each other. And, you know, even if it's like, I just need to bounce an idea off of you, and it's, you know, you may think that person, you know, our work in this group is like vastly different, but an idea has come from all of these conversations, right? You know, just us talking about it. So it was interesting. I wrote something down that Google, I feel like, does a really good job with like having these celebrating people on their website like every day. And I just happened to be on there today, and the person they had on there today is Audre Lorde. She is I think, like, I feel like an artist, and did some work, you know, in the Black History movement. And so one of the things that was listed that she said was there's no such thing as a single issue struggle, right? So we're all struggling together, so we all have to come up with the solution together, right? So I think this is the perfect example of that, designing in color, like doing a good job of bringing people together and having these conversations. And I think, you know, that is also what Black History Month is about, talking to each other, sharing ideas, understanding the struggle, teaching other people about the struggle and how they can help us to resolve these solutions as well.
Hello, everybody. I don't know if you can hear me great, but I think also another thing that needs to be addressed is like all of these conversations that we're having, I think needs to move in the realm of academia. Like when I was going to university, and I think throughout a lot of the presenters, what they were talking about was there was no one that looked like us. So I think a main thing that needs to happen is like a lot of people like us need to be able to get into these kind of positions of power in academia. And that's a problem because it's also a kind of systematic elitist thing that's happening where if you only go to certain schools, you only get these certain jobs, professorships. If you notice, a lot of your professors come from the same 5 or 6 schools. Literally, there's like 200 architecture schools, but all your professors come from 5 or 6 different universities. So I think there needs to be equity in the hiring process of obviously faces of color, but also being able to have a litany of professors from different places and different universities that talk about these issues. Because if you have a white guy talking about Frank Lloyd Wright, that's natural to him. But what's natural to us is to talk about other things that inspire us. Like, I guess, if you talk about African architecture, if you talk about indigenous sculpture, things that people don't even have on their periphery. So I think the next step also is to have people like us in academia. And then I'll also talking about the developer point, I think that's also a lost scope of the architect. Like the architect used to be like the developer, the teacher, like all of these things like back to Roman times. So I think that's another thing we need to reclaim. It's basically about reclaiming a lot of lost territory that we lost when we came to this country originally.
That was powerful. That sense of scope is definitely missing. Boundless scope in what we can do. In addition to that, I noticed a question in the comments from the illustrious Kamari Bright. By the way, if you haven't seen Family Recipe by Kamari Bright, you're missing out. Go check it out. Google it. It's dope. The question goes, considering this country's history, how do y'all approach design or design development with the idea of reparations for the various marginalized communities in mind? Like, how do you avoid perpetuating the BS?
Ooh, I raised my hand and I hit the unmute button real quick. I'm sorry, I don't mean to dominate, but I always got something to say. And so read A Case for Reparations, written by Ta-Nehisi Coates in The Atlantic. And I've started the research, but I did a little math the other day just to put it in proportion for our visual minds, create an image in your mind. So real quick, the private prison system of America accrues $24 billion a year. That's a B. If you took one of those billions of dollars a year and gave it to public schools, each and every one of the public schools of America, each public school acquires $6 million plus for whatever they need. This is simple math. So how we get away from the BS when talking about Black history, reparations, and everything, we give them the hard facts. They took it down. You got to go to the governmental organizations' websites, find this data, conglomerate it in the position of a legislative case, a case against the legislative actions of America, because even the 13th Amendment did not end slavery. People don't understand this. So we have to understand the law behind everything that's going on right now and understand the statistics and the numbers behind everything going right now. And that's how we have to present it, even to the general populace, because we've perceived it and experienced it through a very emotional standpoint. When somebody does something to you and you know it deep in your heart because it's the color of your skin and that was the way they acted because of that. And you had no control over that situation, but you know that deep in yourself, it's something different. You gain a different perspective on the world. You learn to see the world exactly how everyone else sees it. And so now we got to see the world for what it really is. And that's what we've actually been forced into that position. Oh, that's what it is. Well, man, I had an elementary school teacher, triggers me every time somebody says this, the statement, life's not fair. As a young Black kid, you don't think I know this? My father having died when I was 5 years old of a massive heart attack while police were on the scene. They They didn't know he was in need of help. They treated him like a criminal because they pulled him up by the front of his shirt. They say in that point in the police report that he became combative, but at that point, he's obviously in full cardiac arrest, according to the timelines where he called 911 himself. So he became combative, and then, you know, American police do, they put you in handcuffs. They take you to the ground, they put you in handcuffs. So they apprehend him and they put him in handcuffs, and he dies there. That's how my father died. And these are all systematic reasons people don't understand. Like you were saying, Robert, education system. We have to begin to not only just infiltrate or whatever, or subvert these current education systems. We have to realize that we can make one all on our own.
I think even
yeah.
HBCUs were created for that, right? And
They were.
HBCUs have lost like a lot of the power in not only our own community, but just in the American system. So I think we just have to re-energize a lot of the energy that was lost in certain movements.
Reconnected, exactly. At this point, we have the power. We can see right here, we have the power to do anything at this point, even just with this room full of people. We can really, if we wanted to today, make sure, okay, this sounds really crazy, but everyone listen closely. What if the few of us who could, where we could, when we could, left where we were, to get to physically be around these other people in this room, to then own land and begin to support ourselves? Because the minute we are able to produce not just architects and scientists and doctors, that's the next level. We got to start from the foundation. So what Robert was saying, we got to start with our basic education. But before we can learn, we have to sleep and eat properly. And so that's the object. That should be our goal as creators right now, is to, as we all have already spoken for the voiceless and the oppressed and the people of the world who are experiencing not just a lack of creativity because life is hard, but literally lacking the things that they need. And we've all been through this. And so it's like, man, thank you for your time again. I don't mean to take up all the time. It's just, yeah, I'm so passionate and ready to act. It's like, guys, what can we do? What's the next step? What can we do tomorrow? Make it a little better. I don't know.
One thing I was talking about with one of my good brothers the other day is about how a lot of the methods that we're so used to are just simply outdated. There's so much technology that small groups of individuals are utilizing to push forward progress in our marginalized communities, but not on a massive scale. And on a massive scale, we're utilizing technology mostly for entertainment. And then we revert back to the old ways of doing things when it comes to digging ourselves up out of holes that were created by systems of white supremacy, et cetera, et cetera. We're like, oh, what can we do? Let's donate, let's march, let's call a legislator, let's, vote, and while these things are very useful, they're outdated for where we are in the 21st century in 2021. And like I said, there are individuals and groups, small groups and large groups talking to, and doing a lot of things in the technological markets, in the artificial intelligence markets, in the crypto markets, in the APK markets. There's a bunch of things happening, but I think if we do the education, not necessarily academia or higher education, but literal education, like videos video chats like this, where we educate people on how to utilize technology to advance our people. Like, we have this stuff available to us, why not use it? For a big example, right, was what we just saw happen with the stock market, right? It's as simple as, somebody brought this up, it's as simple as numbers. We have numbers. Why can't we make our voice heard? Why did we all just get together, right, and try and vote and vote out a guy that we didn't like, bring in a guy that we may not have liked, but it was better than the other guy, and now there's no accountability, right? Accountability just gone out the window. what happened with the stock market, they showed that, look, if we get together, right, on this app that is free, right, that none of us had to pay for, we're utilizing these apps for entertainment every day. We get on this app, we get together and say, this is what we're going to do. And because they had a knowledge of how the stock market worked and how shorts worked, they were like, a bunch of people are shorting this stock. What we're going to do is we're going to invest in the stock. Imagine if Black people had one stock a week with 100,000 Black people, you know, one person of color from every type of community. You have a musician, an artist, a dancer, a painter, an athlete, finance guy, a politician, and they send out to their followers, hey guys, this is the stock that we're focusing on this week. We're all going to invest, and then we're going to divest. We're going to move, and then we're going to move on. That's how you regenerate wealth back into your community. And that's how you start education outside of academia. That's how you realize that there is power in numbers. But if we can't get together to sacrifice maybe a little bit of comfort or a little bit of dollars for the ones who can, because there are a lot of people who can't, but the ones who can do. And if you can't encourage others to do, you know what I'm saying? That's how you reshape the power structure. These old ways of infiltrate, well, we just need Black officers. False, because studies show that Black officers do the same thing that white officers do. We need more Black politicians. False, because the system, the politicians can't operate outside of this system. They get paid to give their friends, to pass laws that benefit their friends' companies. It's sick. Infiltration is shown to not work. We just saw that the movie came out about Judas and the Black Messiah, and it talked about Chairman Fred Hampton. And one of Fred Hampton's major quotes was, "You cannot solve capitalism with Black capitalism. You can't do it. It's flawed." And so I think maybe the answer isn't socialism, because maybe capitalism, socialism, communism, maybe those are outdated systems. Where's the new system for 2021? Where is the empowerment to that kid who has an idea but can't get his voice heard because he has an idea for a whole new economic system, or a whole new system where people of color and Black people can come together outside of what we've just been taught? So I would encourage us to keep doing things that are doing like this, but to think of new ways to do things. It's not always doing the old thing a new way. It's doing a new thing a new way, and using the lessons that we had from the old struggle, you know what I mean, towards the new one. You know what I mean? Marching is only going to get us so, you know what I mean, so much, where it has its place, but I think that we have to we're creative people. Let's just put that out there. We already know this. We're one of the most creative people the planet has ever seen. We create something from nothing. We got brought to this country, and we literally made the #1 culture in the planet, right? In a matter of 30 years, right? We are creative. Let's get creative in the way that we solve our problems. Let's get creative in the way that we approach our struggles. Let's get creative and operate with the overcoming of the struggle in our mind, but not operating from a place of struggle and from a place of lack. Let's operate from a place of creativity. That's all I want to say.
Church.
Yes, so I agree with everything, and I think this is what designing in color is, right? Getting creative. But I will also just argue that the other side has to be willing to open the door for creativity, right? For us to do these things. Unfortunately, we're still in this white dominated system who is not open to people of color having ideas and getting creative. So we are doing these things, and I think we're fighting to to have a voice and to do these things. But at the same time, the system has to be broken down from all sides, right? So the other side has to be open enough to say that they will be willing for us to infiltrate in so many, for lack of a better word. But yeah, I mean, we can do all that we can, but at this current point in time, we can only get so far with doing what we're trying to do without having that other side, doing the work as well, right? So we didn't create this system, so we can't break it down by ourselves. And so I think, yeah, I just wanted to say that, like, I agree with everything, but on the other end, we also have to figure out how to get beyond this systematic injustices, inequalities that are happening in the system that wasn't created for us. So
right, on every front. The walls of Jericho fell all the way down. It wasn't left up on one side. The walls of Babylon fell.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that was all. I was just agreeing. It was like, yeah, it's every aspect, because we really do have to check every side of this cube that they decided to fix us into, and realize it has all these sides, but it then also has all these edges, and then also has all these corners. And then if we deconstruct the box, we realize the universe is an open space that is literally infinite. What were we doing in the first place? But it's because, again, we don't know how great we can be, and we don't know or realize how great we could be together. And so I say, maybe, again, infiltration is not the solution. Subversion is not the solution. It's maybe the solution is to simply consecrate oneself and one's people and whoever agrees. And again, not at this point relative to the historical racialization, but moving into a new way outside of a racialized life, beyond moving, because we already there. We're already transcended beyond that point, because we've had to be beyond that point. It's like, yeah, Don, you were saying, they got to catch up. Other people do have to catch up, but how do they catch up the fastest? If we come together quick, if we come together and actually become the system in which the world can then function as and move forward with. Because we're not yet together, which is, again, the beautiful reason for this conversation. Because we're not yet together, we don't quite yet have that power.
You know what's interesting is that every time we were able to take steps forward in this country and in the world wasn't because white people or people in power suddenly got a heart and suddenly got to change a heart. So if we're waiting or pleading or asking or fighting for these people and these systems to wake up and say and understand us, you're gonna be waiting a long time. I think that Lincoln didn't want to free the slaves. The President Nixon and President JFK, they didn't want to pass the Civil Rights Bill or Civil Rights Act. They had no choice. When our people come together and we decide that we don't have to tear down Rome. Rome gonna fall. We know that every single empire in the world has ever seen will fall. We don't have to tear down any system. You know what we have to do? Build our own, so that we don't have to depend on their system. I can just on sheer numbers alone, everybody in this room banks with probably one of 10 banks. B of A, Wells Fargo, Citibank, Chase, you name it, right? Why? Convenience? This is what I'm talking about. Like our people, we're so creative and we're so passionate. I think that we can't continue to look to the outside for them to help us. We have everything we need to help ourselves. The only thing that I see from my eyes is that we lack is discipline. Like my brother said earlier, we got to consecrate ourselves. How bad do we want it? How much do we want to sacrifice? Do we want to sacrifice a little bit of convenience? What if all of Black Twitter got together and said, we're not going to the gas station on Thursdays until they lower the gas prices? What if every Black person on Instagram got together and said, we're not posting on Instagram today because y'all not paying us enough for these promos? What if, like just think about it. We don't need to call up Mark Zuckerberg and say, hey Zuck, hey, can you We don't need to do any of that. We have the control in our hands. You know what I'm saying? We don't need to bring to dismantle systems to build our own. Now, the thing is, like the sister said earlier, we are within these systems, so we have to we are subject to what happens with these systems, but it's not going to be overnight, and it may not be for us now in this current generation. It might just be for 2 generations from now or the next generation. But that has to be okay with us if we truly want our people to be free and to be autonomous and to be in power and to be not at the helms and at the whims of these systems. You know what I'm saying? So yes, it takes multiple united fronts, right? Everybody has a job within the ascension, right? Everybody has a job. Some people are literally just entertainers and artists. And they're doing their job. They're spreading their message that way. Some people are politicians. Some people are doctors. Some people are architects. Some people are community builders. Some people are organizers. Some people are poets. Everybody has their own job. But if I told every artist, right, that you have to show your work in such and such gallery, guess what? The gallery got their one black artist. You know how they do. They got their one black artist, and that's it. They got their one black model. They got their dark skin. Now they do something where they got the dark skin model, the light skin, and then the one you don't know who it, like, you know what it is. But they're gonna pick and that's it. So what do? We get our own galleries. We host our own shows. We have our own modeling companies. We do our own architectural. We do rooms like this, right? We do our own thing. We don't have to continually go to them. So that's all I want to contribute to this conversation, right? Is just keep that in our minds. Let's keep in our minds that even though it seems like it's a certain way, it doesn't necessarily have to be like that. We don't have to bank with Chase. We don't have to. We don't have to go shop at Albertsons or Ralph's. We just don't. Yes, will there be sacrifice involved? Yes. Are we willing to do that sacrifice for the betterment of our people? That's the question. We don't have to, as an artist, you don't have to go sign to such and such label, right? You can do your own label, but are you going to get that big bag that Capitol Records going to give or Universal going to give? Maybe not. But is that the risk you're willing to take? Is that the sacrifice that we're willing to make to get our people free? If not, cool. Just know where you fit in the ascension. You know what I'm saying? Know where you fit. But we just have to admit to ourselves what we're actually willing to do to get there. I know my place. I know what I'm willing to sacrifice and what I'm not. And what I am willing to sacrifice, I go 100%. What I'm not, I don't pretend, I don't front like I am. But what I do try to do is keep in mind that we don't have to operate within these systems to bring them down. We can operate outside of the systems and build something new while this system crumbles and falls. We can see it's falling. You know, look at January 6th. What this continual system, that American white supremacy, it can't last.
Are there any last comments? Anything burning on your chest you want to get off before we have to start signing out?
To conclude and agree again with everything everybody else said, yes, we don't need to keep asking other people. All we need to do is ask each other, because you do something and I do something and Justin does something and Olga does something and Robert does something and Chris does something. Everybody does something that eventually we will be able to function as your body does. A singular organism made up of many organs, which are made up of particularized and generalized but specified cells and ingredients and molecular structures. Just like you're made, that's all we got to do is figure out how to function as a singular body. The next step. Everybody knows how to eat and everything like that. All right, let's make sure that happens for everybody so that then we can get these creative modes and spaces to truly open for us, and the mind able to grow and ascend. I love that word, but transcend. Just get up all and out of here of all of this weirdness. But yeah, everything is everything.
That was beautiful. That really was.
I'm gonna close with I'm not gonna be able to live myself if I don't respond to Justin, but I wasn't saying that we should wait. That wasn't, I hope that's not what you got out of what I said. But what I am saying is that we have been creating our own systems. We have been doing these things. But if the systems that weren't created for us are still in place, then there are things that they're not going to allow us to do. That's where the problem comes in. We're working. I think that's what we're doing. We're trying to. I think about the development side and think about, you know, the history of people, Black people, people of color trying to get mortgages, you know, redlining. Those systems are still to this day allowing segregated neighborhoods. And so, you know, those are the things that I'm talking about, that we sometimes cannot control. So if the other side is not willing to recognize that these, even in architecture, we just talked about academia, right? And not having people of color as professors and not teaching, you know, Black architecture, African architecture, you know, Spanish architecture, that is still a problem, right? So we all on this call have created our own lanes in design and when we were in school, but still at the end of the day, we weren't taught it, right? So that's still a system that is set in place that is not allowing us to move forward the way we want to. So that's all I was saying. So I just wanted to clarify, but I just wanted to end with even with Justin and what Kenneth is saying, we are creating our own system. This is the space that we're doing for ourselves, right? And we need to continue these conversations. And don't be afraid to speak out. Whether you're it doesn't matter what color you are. You need to be in uncomfortable situations and uncomfortable positions and have uncomfortable conversations for things in this world to change. So don't be afraid to do that. You know, a lot of times we kind of sit back and feel like other people will do it for us, or maybe it's not my place to say it, or whatever the case is. But be confident in being different and wanting to change the world and go out and do that. So I think that's what I would close with. And thank you guys for this great conversation. This has been amazing. I hope to be a part of more in the future.
I wouldn't have it any other way. Thank you so much to all of the panel members. Thank you individually to Kenneth Webb, Robert Clarke, Taylour Upton, Candace, Fabre, Natou Fall, Ricardo Millhouse, and Don Hicks. Thank you all so much. To everyone in the audience, please come back next week for a panel, Queer in the Park. It's going to be incredible. Thank you all so much for the time. We will try to get this recording out to you as well so you can ruminate. There are a lot of great ideas here. Please follow each and every one of these amazing people. Check our Instagram. We have a feature for all of them. They all deserve your attention, your support, and your money specifically, because that's how a lot of good stuff gets done. So thank you all so much for your time. Have a great night.